And I remember thinking, it does not get any better than this. I was just sort of in London being misunderstood by people, and that's when I thought there might be a show in this. Hi, I'm Lena Dunham, and this is my Film Firsts with BAFTA. The first film I remember seeing, my mother had a tape of a Peter Pan live production with Mary Martin, and it was a VHS, and it had been like copied from a copy from a copy, and I watched it till I was blue in the face, and it was so old you could like see the strings on Peter Pan, and it was like all kind of messy and stagey, and it was still such magic to me. And I still remember a person played the dog and like came out in a giant shaggy dog suit, and it will never leave me. The first film that I was obsessed with was A League of Their Own. I watched A League of Their Own. I would make my father rent it every Sunday from the video store. I'd keep it for the whole week. I would watch it every day, and then we'd rent it again. And it was something about, it really formed my whole thing, which was just seeing women together, joking and laughing, and Tom Hanks spitting nicotine into a cup, and it totally changed my life. The first thing I ever acted in was a school play. It was a production of Romeo and Juliet, and it was a high school production, but they had chosen younger kids to be the chorus, and so we got to we ran after Juliet and threw rose petals, but it meant I got to stay late after school and hang out with the high school kids, and they put me in a little Renaissance outfit, and I remember thinking, it does not get any better than this, and you know what? It didn't.
What was the first film or TV show that you watched at a young age that you definitely shouldn't have seen?
So I was on a trip to Ecuador with my family, and there was a rainstorm, and there was a lodge at the hotel where adults were watching movies in the rainstorm, and A Fish Called Wanda was on, and it was when John Cleese is putting Jamie Lee Curtis's legs behind her head, and I was like, what is happening? There was no part of it. I was like, why would two adults behave this way? They're acting like animals. I had loved movies. I had been obsessed with movies. But the first thing I saw that made me think that I wanted to do this was a film called Funny Ha Ha by Andrew Bujalski. I remember I was home from college, went to the video store, there was this DVD, and it was such a smart, tender film that had been shot in locations that were personal to him with actors who were just friends. And it made me realize that film didn't have to be gate-kept, and you didn't have to have a producer offer you millions of dollars in order to tell a story. And that's the reason I ended up buying my first video camera and starting to make movies. My first day on the set of Girls, it's one of the first scenes of the pilot. It's second or third. The camera tracks up Marnie and Hannah's body, and it looks like we're intertwined in a sexual way until you get to our faces, and she's wearing a retainer, and I'm kind of drooling on myself. I was so scared, and I didn't know that when you're starting to shoot on a soundstage in New York, they call 3 bells, and so 3 bells will ring that lets everybody know that you quiet. In the UK, it's red light and bell, and lets everybody know to be quiet on the set. People are shooting. And I was so scared, and I heard the 3 bells, and I thought, thank God there's a fire drill. We don't have to do this. Yes, after that moment, I started to love it, but it was just, I'd only ever acted with a couple of friends around, or my parents, or these little tiny sets, and suddenly there were 50 people I didn't really know yet, and I was about to do something really vulnerable, and I was quaking. I first came up with the idea for Too Much when I first came to the UK, and I kept noticing these profound differences between what an Anglophile might think London would be. And so it was I was in the middle of reading novels by George Eliot and thinking about the magic of, the UK, the wilds of the moors. And I was just sort of in London being misunderstood by people. And that's when I thought there might be a show in this.